In this video, I'm going to discuss some of the more common queries that are raised in objection to a carnivore diet, and we're going to dive into each one of them to see how much merit there is in these objections. Welcome to Shapefixer. I'm Andrew. I'm a nutritionist, and I have followed along a journey of ketogenic or low carbohydrate diets to address various health issues as I've been getting older. I'm now 60 and I'm in better health than I've been in a very long time. And I have been on a carnivore diet for over a year now. You might have come here from that video, the previous video about that, which I also made today, incidentally. But if you didn't, I'm going to link it here so you can go back to the front to see what my story was about my carnivore diet and why I tried it and why I then decided to stick with it. But that's not what this video is about. So one of the things that get raised is, and I heard this actually from a doctor who said, well, the problem with a carnivore diet is that you miss out on your phytonutrients. And that is true. And it also sounds like it must be something really important. But let's understand what a phytonutrient is. Nutrient is any kind of food. So if you can eat it and get any benefit from eating it, it's a nutrient. Phyto is just plant. It's from the Greek. So plant foods. So hang on a minute. So if I don't eat plants, I'm not getting any plant foods. Okay, so what are those? That doesn't mean anything. So then you get a list. Vitamin C, various minerals like iron, various electrolytes like potassium and magnesium, beta carotene in carrots, for example, which is known as vitamin A, sometimes inaccurately. And the obvious one is fiber. So I'm going to treat fiber as a separate one. Let's just talk about some of the others first. Firstly, vitamin C. If you're on a carnivore diet, you will get appreciably less vitamin C than if you were eating plants. And especially citrus fruits, which we all know have a lot of vitamin C. So do onions, incidentally. But when you're on a standard Western diet, which is carbohydrate-based and plant-based, and you're using sugars as your primary fuel source, vitamin C competes with sugar, with glucose, to get into your cells. So you have to have a lot of vitamin C in your diet because it's not all being absorbed. It's not getting into the cells because of the sugar. If you are on a ketogenic diet or a low-sugar diet, or a carnivore diet, which by very definition is a zero sugar diet because there's no carbohydrates, you need way less vitamin C because it all goes into the cells. And there is enough vitamin C in red meat to meet your demands, and you are not going to develop scurvy and have your teeth falling out. So the vitamin C argument is a non-issue on a carnivore diet. Minerals like iron, for example, and it's true there's a lot of iron in spinach, but there's a lot of iron in meat. And the iron in spinach, or in any plant for that matter, is not the same form of iron as you get in animal food. It's not heme iron, which is what we need as mammals. And so the iron that you get from spinach, even if you get the same amount of iron in your food, you don't absorb the same amount of iron. So you will end up deficient, or we run the risk of being deficient in a lot of minerals that are actually in the plants, but you're not getting them. Whereas if you get them from an animal source, you will absorb them much more efficiently at a much better rate, and you'll be better off. And that also goes for electrolytes like potassium and magnesium. There's plenty in your animal food. So there are no phytonutrients that you won't get in plants, except fiber. Now, fiber, which I'm going to treat now as a separate issue, I'm not sure it should be called a phytonutrient because it's not a nutrient because you don't use it. You don't use fiber. You can't digest it. But your gut microbes, in your microbiome, can use fiber as a food source or a prebiotic, as the word goes. And that was my biggest argument against trying a carnivore diet in the first place, was I was very worried that my gut health would suffer. Turns out it's not true. I've seen firsthand now over a year, and I'm perfectly regular and perfectly healthy. No bloating, no constipation, no stomach aches, no nothing. It's all fine, and no fiber whatsoever, because your gut microbes are quite adaptable and they will eat something else. Now, that's not to say that you should change your diet overnight from one extreme to another extreme, because your microbes need time to adapt, but they will adapt and you'll be fine. And there's a lot of science out now to show that the whole fiber belief, if you like, was actually a bit of a myth. And I'm linking a video down here in the notes to a video on fiber where I go into more detail, because I can't do that in this video. I can't put 250 videos worth of science into this one video. But if you want to know more about fiber and why I say you don't need it, go and watch my video on fiber. Okay, the next big argument against the carnivore diet is that you will have too much saturated fat, because we've been told since the late 1970s to cut saturated fat out of our diet. Saturated fat is animal fat, essentially. So if you're on a carnivore diet, you are going to get a lot of saturated fat. Turns out saturated fat is not an issue. It does not cause heart disease. Sugar and elevated insulin levels are what cause heart disease. I've done a video on saturated fat, which you can also go and look at, which has links to studies and articles in scientific journals around saturated fat, and you can get yourself a little more up to date with the science around saturated fat. So that is an argument that is also now irrelevant. Allied to the idea of saturated fat intake is the argument of cholesterol intake, because when you eat eggs, for example, which form a very integral part of a proper carnivore diet, you're eating a lot of cholesterol. That doesn't matter either, because dietary cholesterol is not a factor in the cholesterol levels in your blood. The cholesterol levels in your blood are controlled by your liver. If you cut down on the cholesterol you eat, your liver will increase the cholesterol that it makes. Makes no difference. Even the American Diabetic Association has now issued a statement to say that dietary cholesterol is irrelevant. So we need to catch up with this one. Eating cholesterol doesn't affect your cholesterol. Then there are arguments that go a little bit beyond the pure nutritional value of a carnivore diet, and I'm going to address them, even though typically I wouldn't, because I tend to try and keep myself just to the nutritional aspect, but I think they're just a couple of thoughts worth sharing. One is the environment, and people will say that eating a plant-based diet is way better for the environment than eating a carnivore diet, and I'm not sure that I'm completely convinced with that, because I think it depends where the plants are coming from. And I live in the south of Spain, and I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of square miles of olives. The ocean of olive trees and absolutely nothing else. That's not good for the environment. Where have all the animals gone? Where's all the plant diversity gone? What's happening to the soil? There are little pockets of oak forest in the hills where it's just too difficult to farm. And they're full of badgers and foxes and rabbits and wild boar and deer. And the pigs that they raise for ham and for pork are let loose in the oak forests from time to time to eat the acorns, and they dig around in the soil and they poo in the soil, and they're all part of the ecology. So I'm not absolutely convinced that it's that simple to say that eating plants is better for the environment. I'm not sure. The other issue is that people won't eat animal products because they don't want to kill animals, and I get that. I understand that that is an emotional thing. It's not a nutritional thing, it's an emotional thing. But I would just drop this question. Are you aware of the thousands of animals that die every time a field is plowed pre-planting? All those little mouse holes with the baby mice in them that get churned up, and all the insects that get destroyed, and all the insects that are killed by the pesticides. A lot of animals die to support a field of plants, food plants. You might not be eating them, but they're being killed. Cruelty, I get, animal cruelty. And I don't think that's an issue, because I think the issue of being cruel to animals or being kind to animals is about it's about the methods and the farming techniques. And I absolutely agree that there should be laws, and the laws should be enforced around cruelty to animals. But now the arguments start getting a little stranger. And an argument that was put to me is that a carnivore diet is bad for your kidneys and bad for your liver. It's bad for your kidneys because if you have too much protein, you produce too much uric acid and you can develop kidney stones, and you can even end up with gout. It's bad for your liver because if you have too much protein and not enough fat, then your liver gets overworked. So what we're talking about here is a bad carnivore diet. A healthy carnivore diet is not too much protein and not enough fat. A healthy carnivore diet is sufficient protein and abundant fat. So if your carnivore diet is a healthy carnivore diet, it doesn't pose any threat to your liver or your kidney. So that's really not an argument. And then the objections I've heard start getting quite silly. I'm just looking down here. Eating disorders. Eating a carnivore diet will lead to an eating disorder because you're depriving yourself of sugars, of carbohydrates, over a period of time until you crack and you can't handle it anymore, and you go on a big carbohydrate binge, and eating carbohydrates is bad for you. So hang on a minute. Cutting out carbohydrates is dangerous because it makes you want to eat more carbohydrates, and eating carbohydrates is bad for you. So what are we saying here? That we should eat them all the time? I'm not getting this. So I'm not having that one. It's socially difficult. Okay, so I can't be on a carnivore diet in case I ever get invited to dinner and I have to eat, I'm confronted with some pasta or some vegetables. Well, eat them. Eat them. It's not a religion. These are just principles. I'm on a carnivore diet. If I go to dinner somewhere and somebody makes a dinner with vegetables, I'm going to eat the vegetables. I'm probably going to like them. And the next day I will be back on my own diet and it won't matter. So that's not a problem. Another argument I've heard is cost or availability. And that's not true either, because yes, I get pound for pound, steak is more expensive maybe than broccoli, but you eat way less of it. So if you are properly adapted and fat adapted and used to having a carnivore diet, you eat once a day, maybe twice a day. One of the meals is nothing more than a snack, and you don't get hungry and you have no nutritional deficiencies. And I have found that my grocery bill is actually lower. It's just lower because I'm not eating the same quantity of food that I used to eat. So that's not true either. Then there's the argument that the long-term effect of a carnivore diet hasn't been completely studied and ascertained. And my answer to that is, well, it probably has. Over millions of years we've been eating fish and meat and saturated fat, and the experiment is actually the carbohydrate experiment, grains, and we've been eating them for about 10,000 years. We are much better adapted to eating animal protein and fat than we are to living off what are essentially processed grass seeds. That being as it may, the overwhelming anecdotal evidence from thousands of people who have gone onto a carnivore diet and experienced enormous health improvements, and I'm one of them, I can feel it for myself, weight down, anxiety down, stress down, energy up, fantastic results in my blood tests. I look 10 years younger than I did 2 years ago. You just have to go and look at some of my early videos and see what I looked like 18 months ago. That's enough for me, because I know what the long-term effect is of the standard Western diet. It's obesity, it's diabetes, it's heart disease, it's cancers, it's Alzheimer's, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to go to the diet that makes me feel better, makes me look better, makes me operate better, gives me better energy levels, better mental health, better mental clarity, costs me less money. That's what I'm going to do. Now here's a really good book that I'm going to recommend. The Dietitian's Dilemma. by Michelle Hearn. She's a registered dietitian who had massive issues with her own health, and including mental health problems, which she managed to sort out by changing the way she eats, initially going ketogenic or low sugar, and ultimately ending up on a carnivore diet. It's an amazing book, and it quotes a lot of studies and has lots of numbers and facts and figures and lots of research in it. I highly recommend you go and have a look at this book if you're that way inclined. But other things that make a carnivore diet seem to not work are if your lifestyle isn't correct and you're not using your diet as part of an overall strategy to manage your health. It's not just diet. You've also got to get an appropriate amount of exercise. You can't be smoking. You can't be drinking alcohol on a regular basis. You may have particular health issues which confound how well you're feeling. You may be on medications. You may be on a lot of medications, and they interact with each other and can interfere with the way your body is processing your food. So just being on a carnivore diet is not some magic magic solution to all your health issues. Okay, you may need some medication. You may not have a gallbladder, for example. So there are obviously going to be personal things that come into it. Now, as I said in my previous video, you don't have to be on a carnivore diet. This video is just to debunk some of the arguments that I commonly hear against a carnivore diet. I have not yet heard an argument that makes it clear to me that a carnivore diet is any kind of threat or danger to my health. So if there is something else, I would love to hear about it. As opposed to a strict plant diet, like a vegan diet, which definitely has deficiencies in it, and any vegan who is really serious about it and understands the science behind their diet takes supplements. You need supplements on a vegan diet, and that's fine. You can be on a vegan diet, you have your reasons for being on a vegan diet, and you take the supplements and you'll be okay. The point is, on a carnivore diet, you don't need any supplements. I take electrolytes because I do a lot of sport and I sweat a lot, so I need to replace my salts. I take a collagen supplement because I used to have hip arthritis. It's healed, but I just want to make sure that I'm still producing collagen, so I eat collagen as a supplement just in case. And there you go. Those are the arguments against the carnivore diet. Those are the ones I hear most commonly. That's my argument against them. I'm going to link some videos. Go and look at the notes below the video here. I'll bullet point the things that I've said, and I will link some more videos for you to go and explore in a little bit more detail with a bit more science on any one of these topics that we discussed in this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel, and please share this video with anybody who argues against your carnivore curiosity, if you like. And if you want to give it a try, go and give it a try. Just make sure you do it properly and you have the proper variation of food, and that you are consistent over a period of time, say a month. It doesn't take long for you to really start feeling the benefits of a carnivore diet.